Yep, thank you, Richard. Good morning, everybody. I'm John Butterfield, the chairman of the IAM. I took over this role September last year. I have a background in a number of sectors, including healthcare, energy and security is in sort of senior roles and owning companies. I did a master's in business continuity a number of years ago, and it did highlight within this the role of CSR for the future. So as part of the IAM, we're very keen to look at that, and our focus is to look at digitisation of all the systems and process that we can, and bring everything into the 21st century. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. Fiona, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, thank you, Richard. Hello, everybody. I'm Fiona Dunican. I have been a VA on and off for about 16 years now, and love being a freelancer and working from home. I discovered CSRA in the middle of last year. I was doing some environmental work for one of my clients and took the training course, and I have just loved helping other companies to put CSR, embed that into their processes. I'm also delighted that I'm the first sole trader to achieve a gold CSR accreditation, and I've got a background in sort of administration management, project management.
Thank you, Fiona. We have also with us today Sam Candy. Sam is standing in at the very last minute for Jodie Mears, who unfortunately wasn't able to make it today. So Sam, thank you ever so much for jumping in at the last minute, and please do tell us a bit about yourself.
Sure. So some of you may know me. I was the director of the PA show, but I have my own consultancy working with businesses to promote sustainability and social responsibility, and also run events and conferences around the topic too.
Thank you, Sam. And Owen, please introduce yourself.
Good morning, everybody. Owen Hughes. I'm ambassador with CSRA. I've worked with Richard from very early days of planning the launch of CSRA and what we wanted to achieve. I'm, as a background, have been in marketing for far too long, and got involved with CSR projects from a very early stage. And so that's me.
And with us today, we have Jennifer Clark, who is our operations manager, and she's going to be facilitating for today. Jennifer, do you want to just quickly mention your background as well, because I think that is important?
Yep, I was 28 years in the construction industry, starting on site and then ending up as global head of sustainability for Skanska Construction, Swedish construction company, who are really way ahead when it comes to embedding some of these sustainable CSR items into business. I left there a few years ago and set up with Richard, and that's me.
Thank you very much. I'm going to now share the screen, so hopefully we can all see the slide deck there, and I can make sure it runs forward. That's good. So I would like to encourage, this is a kind of chat between the panelists about the importance of social responsibility, the enablers, capacity building and impact generation. And feel free to put questions in the chat, put your hand up. Jennifer will be there looking for those questions. It's an interactive session. It's kind of, I like to think of it as almost a fireside chat. We're going to be talking about CSR, jumping in and expressing our opinions and views. And then we're going to have 10 minutes at the end for Q&A. So do feel that you can put questions in, put your hand up, and we'll see how it goes. So I'm just going to start off by setting up this first proposition, really. And that's really around the CSRA approach. We have a holistic approach to building a sustainable business. There are many definitions surrounding the topic of building sustainable business, and there is no doubt about the impact of CSR on profitability for an organisation. The financial value of CSR can be seen across the four pillars of workplace, environment, community and philanthropy. But it's also about delivering social value and investment in something so much bigger than the organisation. It will help with clarity about what you want to get out of your business and from your life. And it also becomes a roadmap for delivering greater purpose and value to stakeholders. What I've tried to show on this slide is that holistic approach, that social responsibility, sits really in the heart. But there are these other terms. We talk about corporate responsibility. We talk about the SDGs, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We talk about responsible business. We talk about ESG, the environment, social and governance, the way in which the financial sector measure social value and social responsibility. So what CSRA does is we want to be that holistic umbrella that looks at those 4 pillars and looks at that inclusivity. And therefore, we have tried to establish a standard for social responsibility that states that social responsibility allows you to enrich the quality of life for all by investing in social value as an essential part of an organization's culture. And this provides purpose and impact and will ensure a sustainable and profitable business. And it will help to build a better world for future generations by improving the environment and ensuring a cohesive community to live and work in. So this is the overarching mission statement for social responsibility, a new standard. And within that, we're challenging the C. We're moving it away from being exclusively corporate, and we're looking at company social responsibility, community social responsibility, and third sector social responsibility in charities, plus also consumers and citizens, and best of all, that sense of collective social responsibility, that we are all part of a journey to improve the world we live and work in. And this is propped up or supported by those pillars of environment, workplace, community, and philanthropy. And I think we can all agree that when we look at our businesses, we can recognize things that we're already doing today in those 4 pillars. So I just wanted to set that out as a beginning position statement to express, our standard of social responsibility and how we can use this framework to be the enablers to deliver that social impact and good. I would like to bring in both John and Andrew really to look at the role of the IAM and the importance of the IAM with regards to the social responsibility agenda.
I'll start this one then, Richard. And with apologies to very clued up IAM members, I am going to just do a very quick potted history of the Institute for anybody who's not a member or who's a new member and doesn't know the full history yet. So we actually started in 1915, and in 1915 it was essentially a group of people who came together as a response to the new office machinery in 1915. So the new office machinery in 1915 was the mass production of typewriters, and would you believe the first copy device, which was essentially the roller thing that people had, and you could copy a massive 8 copies in 5 minutes if you were particularly skilled with that bit of equipment. So what happened was that this group got together. They set up a formal association called the Office Machine Users Association originally. That merged with another organisation to become the Office Management Association. And then in 1960, they officially became the Institute of Office Management. And then in 1972, we settled on the name we've got now, which is the Institute of Administrative Management. So unsurprisingly, all things to do with how an office is managed efficiently and effectively, the processes, the procedures, the implementation of policy, that kind of thing. The only other kind of merging that happened after that was in 2010, when we also absorbed the Institute of Professional Administrators, which is when we broadened a bit to include more administrative roles as well as the more formal administrative management side of the organisation. And that's important because administrators, office managers, and administrative managers all have an incredible impact on the processes and procedures in an organisation. And obviously within that are roles like EAs, PAs, office managers, clearly. And as part of that, there's a chance to become, if you like, that part of a quiet revolution where you can put your own ethical spin on the suppliers you use. You can get involved in research into, further down supply chains. Obviously, there's a huge issue at the moment in supply chains with, you can work for a company that's very much seen as a shining beacon, and then you look 3 steps down the supply chain and there's child labour involved. So all of these kinds of research projects are good ones that administrators, administrative managers, and office managers can get involved in. They also get involved in research for reputational management as well, which is also becoming, well, has become a huge part of the whole marketing portfolio for organisations. And what was good was when we met with Richard, I can't remember now, Richard, about 3 or 4 years ago now, we have these modules on our the courses that we accredit and on our previous list of qualifications. But it was really good to meet CSRA and to find an organisation that actually just distilled what it was about into clear messages. And so it was a very easy decision for us to accredit all of the training that CSRA do. It's hugely important to us to be up to date more than anything. And I think John's going to talk a bit about digitisation again, but just to be part of the kind of new movement, the kind of new workforce as well. So I've got a son who's now 16, so he's about to enter the workforce after he's done his kind of further education stuff. And it's interesting the debates that he and his friends have, apart from when they're talking about Xbox and football, around what's important in the workplace in terms of a more value-driven approach to choosing jobs. So it's become really important to us. It's definitely in our strategy for training, qualifications, and moving forward. So hopefully that's given the potted history. I can just pass on to the chairman to give a bit more of a spin on it as well.
Thank you, Andrew.
I think what he said.
That's pretty much how my meetings with John go.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, just to reinforce what Andrew was saying there, our big focus over the next 12 to 18 months is very much that digitisation of systems and processes. We're going to launch the new IAM Academy over the coming weeks. So, of course, within that, in this new modern age, a lot of that will be e-learning programs, webinars. It will also allow, obviously, in the future for face-to-face training to happen again when the planet's ready for that. But obviously, everybody's got used to this whole digital learning process. So we will have a full learning management system in the IAM Academy. We're also going to launch what we're going to call business administration and management software platform. So the idea of that would be that it can, for any processes and systems within your organization that you're able to digitize, this platform will allow it, but to have it all within one login. Because at the moment, I know that people buy lots of different software, whether it's for your client management system, your asset registers, your various different functions within the business. What we've been working on, and it's been for at least 2 years now that we're working on this software program, is to try and wrap all of that up into one package. Once it's launched, if there's still bits missing that people, when we get the feedback and people are after more specific functions within it, then again, that's something we can go back to the developers with to get integrated. So it would look after all your HR functions, your management of assets, your operational aspects, or whatever you do as a business. Maybe that's, I don't know, you have a fleet of vehicles, so it could run all of that. It can do your rotoring, it can do your holiday, your timesheets, invoicing, all of these things, but all wrapped up into one package. But again, with that API functionality, so that talking to other software platforms functionality. For example, if you have Xero or Sage accounting systems, it can talk to these platforms as well. So that's where we see the future going. And again, we see that very much as part of that whole environmental, reducing environmental impacts and CSR.
Yeah, thank you, John. And it's interesting because I think, COVID has been a game changer in terms of the way we've changed the way we do things. And certainly for CSRA, it put all our training online, and that's introduced us to an international audience. So that digital workspace has become very important. Owen, what do you think about the change in attitude towards social responsibility as a result of COVID?
Well, I actually think it started before COVID, if I'm honest. And if you go back to the Blue Planet phenomenon, which really started most of us thinking about the environment and the damage we were doing, not just as individuals, but as businesses and organizations as well. And I think that was probably the start of this journey. jump forward then to the beginning of last year, and COVID absolutely has changed probably the world and life for us all permanently. I think if you look at the workplace, that much has been written and said around flexible working, hybrid working, remote working, and the fact that we're all sitting here on a video conference, I think, is testament to that. Prior to the beginning of last year, most of us had a secret dread of video conferencing. Now it's just part and parcel of our normal life. But that's not the only impact on the workplace. We have all become far more aware of the mental and physical well-being of our staff, and how we take care of that, how we support them, how we give them the right development tools. We have also, as a global society, become far more aware of the impact of everything we do, everything everybody else does on communities. And if you take an element of that support away, so the health service, the potentially catastrophic impact it can have on those communities. And as a result, we've all started to give back to communities. Andrew mentioned earlier on about his 16-year-old, and you know the impact CSR had on him. My son's a couple of years older, and he's now making his buying decisions based on whether an organisation is socially responsible. And I use this example time and time again. My son will no longer buy from Amazon. Now, let's face it, I would challenge anybody who's on this session to say they haven't bought from Amazon, but my son won't do, because he says, why should I buy from an organisation that treats their staff so badly? Can't argue with that. So we are all becoming fundamentally aware. And I think for me, what has really been driven over the last 18 months is the fact that if you are not a socially responsible business, and that covers across all of the areas of spectrum, you will lose business. It's not a case of this is a cost for my organisation. This is a fundamental part of the way every business has to develop going forward. It has to go to the heart of every business, and actually it's an opportunity. And I believe that those businesses with CSR at the heart will be the ones that become more profitable as we go forward.
That's absolutely right. I mean, I think we do look at that return on social investment, and that can be seen against, improving engagement in the workplace and, and attracting the right talent. We've just, I have an 18, 19-year-old son now, and again, a generation that has a different attitude about value and purpose. And this is the new workforce, and businesses are already, we're seeing businesses struggle to attract talent, especially in hospitality and in transport and so on and so forth. So I think the thing is, there are clear drivers in terms of investing in social responsibility to become a profit center for your organization by creating that engagement, retention, and also simple things like winning tenders and stuff like that. Sam, I mean, what will the future of work look like? Will the workplace be ever the same? And from a PA VAEA point of view, how does that change the dynamic, especially with hybrid working and so on and so forth?
Yeah, it won't. I think the thing is that, most of us worked in an office before. So the last year and a half has been completely different for us. And I don't think it's ever going to be the same again. Interestingly, I did a poll on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago, and it's probably had one of the biggest responses that I'd seen. So I asked, are you returning to the office? The answers were either back to the office, I'm staying at home, a mix of both, or undecided. Only 12% said that they were returning to the office. 51% said that it was going to be a mix of both. And employees have a duty of care to their employees to protect their health and safety and welfare. They've got to provide them with a safe working environment. So it's completely changed for everyone. You know, when you look at what how companies have responded to that return to work, you've got companies like Deloitte that have said they're going to be ultra flexible working, where all of their 20,000 staff in the UK can choose when they come in. And PwC have asked staff to be in 40% of the time. And Unilever have said that they'll never go back to 5 days in the office. So it has to change. And I think the PAEA-VA, the way that they are going to help to manage it, you know, they're going to have to help with managing that building capacity of the teams that they're supporting, and also ensuring that there's engagement. You know, whilst we're still working at home, you have to be able to engage, and using new technologies to do so, promoting collaboration. I think it's important to make sure that, you know, everybody is getting involved and everyone has the room to, you know, we may have gone back to more extensive note taking because we're not in the office where we can just ask people, oh, what did you think about this? So I think there's a lot of change. Companies have got to, what Owen was saying before, I think companies have to change their policies to support people working from home. And if they, I know there was a report that the bosses at Goldman Sachs said that they don't believe in working from home, that you can't train new people from working at home. And, you know, I think everyone has proved that that's different, you know, that you can. But what happens when we go back to work and then everyone, if one person catches COVID, then you have to isolate for 10 days if you've been near that person. So this is going to go on. This isn't going to change. And Andrew, like your son, Owen, like yours, what we're also seeing is people, when they're going to make their decisions of going into new jobs, and I wouldn't say it's just the younger generation, but now I'm seeing in a lot of the group networking groups that I'm in, where people are saying if they're looking to join a company, they want to know that they've got a flexible working policy, and if they haven't, they won't go and work for those companies. So I think it's really important to keep an open mind that we're going to be this way for a long time. That's my views anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, again, it comes back to, you know, this, you know, the PAVAEA kind of community is central to the reset, isn't it? I mean, you know, it's identifying the enablers within organizations that's going to help businesses, you know, travel through this change, and social responsibility is very much at the heart of that. So it's not just looking at, you know, the workplace pillar, which is managing the mental health and well-being, the inclusivity and diversity, the apprenticeships and the training, you know, as we move into hybrid working, which does make things a little bit more complicated. And there are issues because, you know, that responsibility that a business has about early careerers who are suddenly working from bed sits, you know, not having the social life that they expected in the office, and people in domestic abuse situations that, or places where their home just isn't a great environment, and who's going to pay the bills in winter, you know, so the responsibility the employer has. And I think the EAPA, you know, VA kind of community are well placed to kind of help identify, pull together those things so that we can see them in one place. And that has, you know, an impact on environmental impact. Somebody was talking to me the other day about the fact that actually hybrid working was going to be, you know, much better for the environment in terms of carbon footprint. Now, of course, it is for the employers because they don't have to heat their buildings. But if you've got 500 people working in one building, there's it's a cheaper way of heating the workspace for those 500 people to work in. If those 500 people are working from home, they're working in 500 houses, you know, using much more energy. So it's about how, you know, how do businesses now, you know, calculate their carbon footprint, their impact on the environment, you know, the reduced of the commute. That's great in terms of Clean Air Acts and so on and so forth. But it is, you know, and then looking at that community engagement as well. So, you know, I think, you know, I think PAs are very much central to that reset in the way that we're going to be looking at the new kind of normal.
Just to add there, though, the other side of that is if companies have buildings that are only half full because only they're trying to space people out, and there's only 40-60% of the people in those buildings, then that's not going to be good for those buildings' environment either, because you have to turn the lights on and you have to you put the heating or ventilation on if there are people in that building. So, recently speaking to somebody that works for an investment company, and they said that they've gone from 3 buildings down to 2 buildings. So there's now only 60% that can fit in the 2 buildings that they have. So now the assistant community might have to support and manage that as well. And actually looking at smaller companies, they might take away their offices because it's going to save them money and save on the environment as well. So yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting few years, and I don't think this is going to be a fast move. I think we're going to see this change for the next 2 or 3 years.
Do we see some?
Richard, sorry, after you, John.
Do we see some conflict then developing perhaps between, if you've got a fixed mindset company that says, no, I want everybody in the office, that's just it, that's how we're going to operate, against, the experiences people have had now over the past 18 months? I think that's...
yeah. And there's the Corporate Manslaughter Act that came in 2008. What happens when someone, it hasn't happened yet, but if someone forces somebody to go into work and they catch COVID and then are seriously ill, the company, the corporation, is responsible for that person. So, I have no doubt that we'll see a case come up in the future around that. But also I think people's mindsets have changed over the companies that they want to work for. They will work for companies where they see that they're, we all know this, we all see that this is happening. You want to make sure that people are doing good if you're going to go and work for them, and that includes the flexible working policy.
I think.
Can I endorse a couple of things that were said there, Richard? Yes. I think I absolutely agree with what Owen started with, in terms of the COVID has accelerated what was slowly building momentum. I absolutely agree with Owen on that. But but linked to that was the fact that Microsoft, after about 6 months of lockdown, released a statement saying that they'd had to put 4 years of research into 4 months with their collaborative and remote working software, just to catch up with this, this complete shift in how we work. And sort of to endorse what Sam's been saying as well, there's some research towards the end of last year that was saying that people who occasionally work in the office is going to double. Even when we're back to, all restrictions lifted, it's going to more than double, from about 20% to about 45%, which kind of sounds similar to your 51%, was it, Sam?
Yeah, 51%.
And then people like myself, and I'm guessing there's other people here, definitely Fiona, who are mostly working from home, because I'm either at home or I'm at events or I'm visiting clients. That's going to double as well, where the majority of our hours are at home. And as Sam says, there's a responsibility on the management of that organisation to make that feasible and safe, but they've also got to make it fair. Again, my son was in the last year of his GCSEs, and that's fine for him because I'm geared up to do everything from home. I've worked principally from home for about 12 years, so we've got all the kit, we've got all the software. But he had children in his class who were not as fortunate, so maybe not even having a laptop, or having a laptop that's 10 years old and it's got valves at the back of it or whatever. And so, management have to be careful, not just with the safety and the responsibility, but with the fairness as well.
Absolutely right. And I think, first of all, I'd just like to encourage people to put your questions in the chat or the Q&A and give us your opinions about your experiences, because I think something that's both Andrew and Sam were alluding to there was that, again, that kind of the PAVAE being that kind of reset and being able to go out and find out what's happening, because at the moment with hybrid working, it's a bit of a wild west. And we will see in the next 18 months regulation and legislation coming in that's going to look at how a business should be looking after its staff in a hybrid working environment. So we're going to see that, we're going to see those things coming in. I think it's best that businesses start to think about that now before they're told what to do in a year and a half time.
But I think we're all talking about the now and the immediate future. I think what COVID and the Blue Planet has done has triggered that change process. I think this will take, and Sam alluded to it, I think this is going to be a long running saga, but I think it will be the start of a change in the way we all do businesses. It's going, much has been written about the shift from being ambition and financially driven to the work-life balance. And I think it's all well and good having the Goldman Sachses of this world saying, got to get back to work. Well, actually, a lot of people are going to start saying, I don't want to do that. I don't want, you might be paying me the big bucks, but I'm prepared to take a lesser salary and have a safer, better work-life balance. So I think those organizations will have to catch up ultimately, because they will lose the potential employee pool, because
exactly
apply to jobs to it for them.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, Owen. There's been a spate of articles in the newspapers recently about how so many people are reevaluating what they do with their home life, what they do with their work, even relationships. And you're absolutely right. It's going to escalate, not diminish.
Yeah. I never would have worked from home before. I've always worked in central London in an office, and I don't think I will ever go back to working in an office again. I just, I didn't realise the value of the work-life balance, and my whole life has changed in the last year in the way that I work, and it just, it makes it so much easier to live your life as well as work. Working from home. But
so how much is that on the actual office environment itself, and how much is that is about the getting backwards and forwards to work every day, with this tube and everything else?
Yeah, well, I was an hour and 15 minutes into London every day, so I'm saving 2.5 hours a day. But.
Well, I think there is that mindset, that change we're all talking about it, and that change in perception again. Where the drive, where social responsibility becomes that investment in the future sustainability of an organisation, because not only are employees looking at the flexible working change, but also we're seeing that new talent pool, absolutely checking websites before accepting a job with a business. To make sure that business has social responsibility policies in place, both across environment and in terms of enriching the lives of their staff by allowing social value to be part of the job description. In other words, allowing staff to volunteer, having time out to pick issues that matter to them. Because we are now becoming, it's not work driven. That social value has now become as important as the financial value. And it's about how we can, how we create the enablers within organizations to help businesses do that. I'm going to bring Fiona in now, because I think this is a perfect place to say, we've talked about a lot of the background of the COVID mindset change and the change in mindset that we have as individual citizens, not just as people who work for businesses. But Fiona, what's your experience been in terms of obviously your training and then going on to influence?
Well, you're absolutely right. And I think, going back to what Owen and Andrew both said about the Blue Planet generation, I think VAs, PAs, EAs, we are in a perfect position to influence the companies that we work with. So, for example, going back to the Blue Planet, you look at that. I used to look at the TV and shout at it and just go, yes, but what can we do? What can one person do to help? This is all about big business stopping using fossil fuels. But I think once you start to dig a little bit more into that, and as I say, having taken the CSRA training course and become an enabler, I look at things now from a position of, I'm really fortunate. I work with small to medium-sized companies. I'm in a position where I look at procurement, so I can look at their supply chains. I can look all the way down the supply chains, as someone said earlier about to see that everything is ethical going down the supply chain. You also know the team that work there well, because you're a sort of focal point of the company. So you know what is important to each of the team members. You can talk to them about, do they have a particular, say, charity in it that is important to them? You can then look at all the different sort of the charities that people want to work with. You can suggest that then to the companies, to say to them, well, maybe we should do a partnership with a particular charity, to let people go and volunteer, to encourage that sort of community spirit, get people to go out and help. It also, as Sam's also said, the staff retention. You look at companies that are offering flexible working and that sort of thing, and CSR. When I look at companies, I always look at their social responsibility. I look at their environmental statements to see what their views are before I start working with them. And it's not just about staff retention, it's also customer loyalty. So the better that the company behaves, doing good is good business. And you'll often find that other clients will stay with you in order to be seen to be doing the right thing. So they know that you're doing the right thing, so they would want to work with you. Also, as a VA, you're in a position where you can look at the energy usage, for example. You can advise on that. We're often asked to look into the suppliers of energy and to look at invoices and so on, so that you know where the money's being spent within a business, and that really helps to pull things a bit closer together. Because I often find that, particularly with small business owners, they find that a lot of the time they're too busy to look further into this, and so we're in a perfect position to pull all that information out and then present them with a solution, rather than them saying, well, I haven't got time to worry about that now.
Yeah,
so I think, go on.
No, I was just agreeing. I think absolutely right. I mean, it is, it's having eyes on different areas of the business and being able to sort of pull that into one space. And then, but also the thing you just touched on earlier on about, engagement with the staff. And this is because we want a better sense of purpose and value in our own lives. We want our lives to be purpose driven, and that has to be above and beyond the jobs that we have. And I think businesses, are duty bound now to kind of, look at helping their staff with that purpose, and, and for the VA EAPAs to kind of be part of that process within an organization.
And I think a lot of it is that you can't really go into doing this without practicing what you preach, really. You need to be able to understand where you as a person sit on environmental issues and social issues, because if you don't believe in it, you can't push things forward for your clients. It becomes less important. So I think taking the training course that I did really opened my eyes as to what we as individuals can do. And in fact, I actually changed my entire business model because of it. So I now offer help to small businesses to embed CSR into their policies and their procedures, which I didn't do before. And I knew that as an individual, I did my best for the environment. I could tick all those boxes to say, yes, I've got a water butt. Yes, I've got a wormery that I put my, I do my recycling. I do all of those things. I could say that I personally did, but actually it gives you so much more to offer to your clients, to be able to say to them, look, I can go and do some of the research on this. I can tell you how to become a more environmentally and social sort of icon. You can go forwards, and then it not only is it a really good thing for businesses to do, but also you get the good message out there, which inspires loyalty. You can it also you get a good profit out of it. It's not always that that doing good is sort of for free. If people are seen to be doing the right thing, then a lot more business will come their way. And it's really good PR.
I'd add as well, sorry, I just wanted to add that for a career move as well for the assistant community, this is, if you get involved in your CSR within your business, it is only going to advance your career, because it is getting very noticed by senior executives in companies, by boards. So if you're part of enabling that to happen, you start winning awards for it. Your sales teams start winning tenders because of the work that you've done. You really will get to stand out. So I think it's a really good career move that you can add it into the job that you're doing and get some value out of it for yourselves as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd like to endorse what Sam and Fiona were saying as well. We ran an article in our newsletter, either the edition before or the one before that, I can't remember now which, but from an excellent assistant called Jodie Mears. And Jodie was talking about widening her role, and she'd set up an internal ethics committee and got champions involved and everything. And I completely endorse both what Fiona and Sam are saying about the assistant role. Is such a brilliant role for having sight within an organization that is almost unique, really, within that organization. And so ideally placed, if there's a gap in CSR, or just a gap in one of the pillars maybe, to actually initiate, be the catalyst, even kind of transform their whole career or the role by looking at these particular areas that companies are crying out for someone. In a lot of cases, I think, and we're going to sort of touch on this at the end when we talk about training, but I think we're at a point where you've got a lot of people who want to do something and they're not sure what it is they need to do, and so
exactly.
So finding out a bit more, getting trained up is absolutely ideal for broadening the whole role and also working on your own career. I know. Sorry, Richard, that previous slide mentioned financial and social value, and I've kind of got a question really for yourself and Owen, and to some extent Fiona, who's kind of grassroots, as it were, but as the experts, and I think kind of measuring the financial impact of making smaller changes. So I decide to change the supplier of our paper, for example. Now that's quite easy for me to measure that financial impact. It's probably got limited social impact of itself. Obviously, if everyone's doing it, that makes a difference. But within an organization, it makes limited social impact. And I think that the challenge really is, or the challenge going forward is that there needs to be a balance in how we look at the improvements, and really that has to be met by some way of measuring social value. And obviously yourselves at CSRA and Fiona are doing this now. So as I say, changing supplier, that's easy. How do you measure the social value? What metrics, what methods are going to be coming in or in now that lets me know that as an organization we did this and it feels good, and now I can sleep more comfortably and I can boast to other executives?
I was having a very similar conversation this morning. The first point I would like to say is no one organization can be measured against the same metrics. You can't. It's not like you can turn around and say, well, you should be making £100,000 saving if you do this, because different organizations are unique. I'm a keen cyclist, and I subscribe to the Dave Brailsford approach to life. You change something by 1%, and if you do lots of things by 1%, all of a sudden it makes 10% and then 20%. And to my mind, if you look at every aspect of your business, and we operate based on the 4 pillars, as Richard mentioned earlier, but if you look at all of your activity within those 4 pillars, and you make very small changes in many different areas, the overall impact will be significant. The other side is we work with organisations so that once they've done their accreditation, they then create impact reports, which give a specific value and details of the impact their CSR strategy, their changes are having both on them as a business and on their staff and on the community around them. And this impact report can then be used as your annual benchmark. So whilst the accreditation is a 3-year process, an organisation should be doing this on an annual basis. And as an EA, as a VA, it is something you can then introduce to that organisation to say, look, we can. CSR doesn't have to be not an unmeasurable item. I come from a marketing background, and in days gone by, we used to be at loggerheads with the finance team, because finance used to save money and we used to spend it. And marketing apparently was never measurable. Rubbish. It's all measurable. You just have to agree what your objectives are, what you want to achieve, and then you can measure it. And that's very much what an impact report can do. And
yeah, I would say, Owen, that was exactly where I was coming from, was the old battle of marketing and finance. Because there's always going to be people in the organisation that say, prove it, or you know, I can see how much this costs. I can't work out where yours fits. And so I think it is important. I mean, I love the impact statements, but I think it is going to be important that the measurement systems evolve alongside the other activities that we get involved in, just because there will always be these people in organizations. And I forget what the figure is now, but it used to be around a quarter of all CEOs had a finance background or whatever. There's always going to be these people who want to say, well, show me the money.
Yeah, well, this is true. I mean, and this is going to be, I mean, you know, we've got 10 minutes, so I do want to leave a bit of time for some of the questions, but certainly the training covers all of that. And a good example of that, social value, because social value is a different way of measurement. But, you know, and again, both Fiona and Sam have touched on the fact that this is great for PR and reputation and building advocacy and loyalty. And that reduces, you know, absenteeism and creates engagement. But, you know, Costa, for example, so see the social value bit as being almost the most valuable part of their business, because, you know, if they can retain, you know, staff for 2 years rather than 6 months, because they're providing social value as part of the job description, allowing their employees to work in the community, to support charities, to do all those kind of things, then they stay for 2 years. And so there's a reduction in cost of training. There's a improved productivity. So you know, the cost of social value can be seen, you know, on the bottom line simply by building that sustainability and resilience into your business, and that's so important. But the training, you know, just, you know, touching on the training, it's 6 one-hour modules at the moment. We're running them either as 1-hour modules or as 2-hour modules 3 times a week. There are different ways of doing things. So we are going to be running the training in September for the IAM. And the training is not only accredited by the Institute of Administrative Management, it's endorsed and recognised by Buxton University and does count towards your continued professional development. And obviously you're certified at the end of the course as being a CSR enabler. But I think the value you get from this, the modules are, you know, a history of CSR, looking at the clear benefits of all those social drivers and financial drivers, looking at the 4 pillars in detail, looking at the law, the regulation, the regulatory framework that sits around, so things like ISOs and accreditations like CSRA. And then there's how you build the strategy for your organization, how you identify the enablers, how you build the team internally who are going to help to deliver it, how you align your business with the kind of things that you're going to do. And then finally, how you measure, record, and communicate it. Because one of the most important things is showing impact. And the best way to do that is through communication. And one of the great things about social responsibility is it's just positive storytelling. You need to back it up with the positive story doing. You need to evidence it. It's not box ticking, but it's about being able to have, you know, week on, month on, year on, constant stories about reductions of cost for LED lights, or introducing a cycle to work scheme, or bringing in an apprenticeship program, or delivering a mental health and well-being policy. All of this stuff delivers that positive communication. So I think, you know, the training is a great driver to engage that PAEA VA network into the world of social responsibility, and then help them deliver that back to their businesses and help them make their businesses, you know, successful in that sense as well. We've
Yeah,
got
sorry,
time.
just quickly jump in there, Richard, and just to say that as Richard has said, the IAM is going to run this training delivered by CSRA, and so as hopefully not to embarrass Richard and Owen, but the whole course we were found was one of the easiest ones we've ever accredited. Really well put together, very good balance across the different subjects and the depth, and also very well delivered by the trainers from CSRA. So we're really looking forward to running this. Obviously, we'll make it open to anybody, but IAM members will be able to get this at an exclusive price once we start to market going forward. But just thanks very much, Richard, for being available to deliver this for us.
No, you're very welcome. I think it's very important, and we're at the beginning of this journey. I think that's social responsibility is just beginning to filter into our lives in terms of us as regular citizens. I think the attitude has always been there as people. COVID has shown how important the community is. It's shown how important the environment is. It's shown how important working together is. So it's there. It's in us as individuals. We've got to take that into the workplace, and we've got to help deliver that across the workplace. If there are any questions, Jennifer, is there any questions that you wanted to pull out, or anything? Any comments there?
Yeah, there's a couple. Laura asked if the slides would go out, so I've replied yes to that. Lisa McDonald asked about training and how to get started, and I think that's quite an important question because it is a bit daunting, but we have covered the training. But yeah, that question is, how do you get started? There was another question. Well, first of all, there was a comment from Paul Miles saying a large company that he's aware of has sort of taken the approach of, as long as the job gets done. So whether you do your job in 5 days or 4 days, then you've got that extra time to do what you want. And one employee has then decided to volunteer at the charity 1 day a week. So that approach is really about trusting your employees, which helps with that retention, giving them that autonomy. So really flexible and potentially huge social benefits for that approach.
I agree with that, Jennifer, because I think the more your staff, if you're a small company, the more your staff feel that they're engaged and that they can sort of show off what they've done, whether it's doing a virtual walk, etc. These things, because we're all so separate from each other at the moment, we're not all in an office to chat and go out for lunch and so on. It really brings the staff together.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And then Alex Hughes made a comment about really CSR being woven into the processes and procedures, finding those effective solutions and those new ways of working, which brings me on to a question of how do you get everybody involved? Should CSR be run by one person in a company? How do you get everybody involved, especially with us working separately? So that's one question.
Well, I mean, I think to address that last question, I think the size of the company determines that. I mean, if you're a big company and you have an HR department, facilities, accounts, then it's engaging within all those departments, because they're going to provide the information that's going to help inform your social responsibility, engagement, and communication programs. And I think the other thing is that in terms of that question about how do we start? Yes, the training is a great place to start, but also on the CSRA accreditation website, there's a resources page. And the resources page has some interactive tools. All of this is completely free. So you can download a tool that shows you where you are on your CSR journey now. There's a lovely guide to CSR measurement. So it teaches you how to look at the 4 pillars and how you record impact against the things in those 4 pillars. And there are interviews, including a brilliant interview of Fiona as well, just recently about different people who have engaged with the accreditation program and the impact that that's having on their different businesses. So from education to law to recruitment to VA and PAEAs and so on and so forth. So there's plenty of resources available on our website.
I think it's worth also adding there, Richard, that everybody we speak to, when they don't know where to start on their CSR journey, when they do start, they realise they're actually doing a lot more than they thought, and it doesn't look that bad. We have a survey you can do online. Go to the website, download the survey, and asks lots of questions, and it gives you a score. And again, it just shows you where you are, and like I say, often it's not bad.
No, thank you.
Sorry, I just wanted to add to reach out to you guys. You know, if anyone does want to find out more, reach out to any of the team at CSRA, because they'll be able to help you further.
Very much so, and we will be running, you know, other webinars and workshops throughout the year, and with the IAM. I'd just like to thank everyone today, the participants who are spending the time and listening to us today, especially our panelists, Andrew Jardine, John Butterfield, Fiona Dunican, Sam Candy, and Owen Hughes for you know, being on the panel and providing your insight and into the world of social responsibility. I hope that's been of use and benefit to everyone here today. And you know, as Sam had said, we're all at the end of the phone should you want to have a continued conversation about what we're doing. But if you keep an eye out, we will be promoting later in the year the training with the IAM on how you can become the social responsibility enablers in your organisation. So thank you ever so much, and have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.